What is up, everyone? My name is Joe Bragg, and you are listening to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, proud member of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network, and I am joined, as always, by my dear brother, Ray. We are so excited about this episode. We're actually doing something a little different that we're going to do from time to time. We're going to do these game breaks where we just focus on one game, so we have some games mapped out that we want to just focus on and talk on it. We intended to make these episodes a little bit shorter and even mention in the towards the end of the video that this was going to be a 45-minute video because we didn't want to make an hour-long video, naturally neglecting the fact that we're going to put a little video in there showing the video and all that stuff, plus this intro. It's going to be an hour. Sorry, that's just where we're at. We land there. It's still going to be it's a great hour. We talk about some recent gaming experiences that we've been having and having some fun with that, and then also spend time talking about the game Rise of Babel and getting into that and some of the conversations surrounding the game itself. But speaking of games, we want to talk about the Game Changer Retreat because we have some retreat information here. The family edition of the Game Changer Retreat at Camp Living Waters is going to be February 14th through the 19th, and so this is an all ages. This is a family event. It's going to be fantastic. Then we have our spring one happening April 4th through 6th, and then the fall is going to be September 19th through the 21st, and so we're really excited. But you can learn more about the Game Changer Retreat at camplivingwaters.org, and then you just hit the weekend retreats and click Game Changer. It's going to bring you right to it, and you can go. So that's camplivingwaters.org to learn more about the Game Changer Retreats. We're super excited about what God's been doing there. Can't wait for the family edition. Going to be bringing my family. My kids are stoked about it. So really, really excited. And Ray, if I'm not mistaken, we are 31.5% certain here. I'm 31.5% certain that we have some level of sponsorship. Where are we at with that?
Yeah, I'm 68.5% sure that we do as well. And this episode was brought to you by Refocus Creative. So stop on over at refocuscreative.com for all your expert video production and multimedia marketing needs. Man, they got some dope stuff over there. Even if you just go stop and check out what they have videos on their webpage that can show you what they can do for you. So if you have any of those needs, please check out refocuscreative.com while Joe is floating in outer space.
Hey man, you don't get, look at this. This man stayed on task, got it all done. So good. That is that extreme focus, Ray. That is why you're here. I'm acting like those little DVD things. Like I'm over here. I just never hit the corner. Let's get it.
I almost lost it, but I had to make it.
You did it, man. That's good. Yeah. Hey, Matt, let's cue that music, man. Let's get it started. Let's go.
Welcome to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, where we focus on Jesus, community, and board games. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, man. So we are super excited about this episode. Ray, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. I didn't know that we were starting because you just came in. That was such a different intro, man, but I like it. Yeah. It keeps me on my feet.
On your feet. Not even on your toes, on your full feet.
Nope. On all, the whole thing, the whole pad. Yeah, no, I'm doing great. I am doing great, man. Excited to be here recording once again.
Yeah, that is funny because normally I do a little bit of a countdown. I just literally hit the record button and went.
You're just like, let out a sigh like, ah. Oh. So what's happening, Ray? How you doing over there? All right, let's get busy.
Yeah, this episode is brought to you by Polar. This stuff right here, this is premium seltzer. This is, I don't even know what the end of this is. It says Ginger Lime Mule. And I'm not sure what that last one is actually referring to. I don't know anything about it. But if you're a fan of ginger ale, this is the water for you. It's sugar-free. Absolutely delicious, and I can drink it like I would drink ginger ale, but without all the diabetes. So I am actually happy about this. It's ice cold. So good.
Man,
if I burp on the podcast, it's because of that delicious beverage. Okay, I would just get that right out of the way.
Hopefully, they send you like a free 12-pack of that for acknowledging.
I have a 12-pack that is now a 2-pack because I have just been cruising through this, and I have to do more research on mule. I don't know. Someone told me that's an alcoholic term. I'm like, but this is alcohol free, and I also don't think they put actual
is.
mules in here, so I think we're safe. Yeah, I don't know.
You never know. Yeah.
But either way,
Nowadays.
it's delicious. Nowadays. Okay, well, I could change a little of the perspective of that, but I think it's great. Hey, and yeah, if you're listening to this, thank you for being with us. We are excited as always to dive into another episode of the Christian Board Gamers podcast, and we've been having a lot of fun, and this is going to be a different episode where we got a game break, and we're just looking at one game. We'll do these from time to time where we just focus on a game and unpack some stuff. But before we even get into that, man, we have been doing gaming in different contexts over the last week or so, and so we kind of just wanted to talk about how some fellowship and some experiences we've been having in the gaming space. And Ray and I had the opportunity, now it would be 2 weekends ago-ish, where we were able to lead a student leadership retreat where we took a number of our students to a leadership retreat, and we had an absolute blast. We brought a ton of games, and they're playing Taco Cat, Go Cheese Pizza, Uno, right? Games that they're accustomed to. But we actually, we played Dead Men Tell No Tales, which was a game that just continually comes out as much as possible. And the other thing is we broke out Chameleon, or The Chameleon officially. And man, that was a lot of fun with a bunch of teenagers.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a great time. And it's a good game when they're like, hey, can I borrow that?
Yes.
Like they ask to take it with them. They're like, I need that because they want to continue playing with their friends at a later date. Because that doesn't happen with other games. You know what I mean?
No.
They'll usually be like, hey, let's run it back. Or next time we get together, can we pull that game out? They were like, I need to borrow that.
Yeah, which was crazy. I mean, literally, like one of the students came up. He's like, yo, can I borrow the Chameleon? Like we got back to our center and he's like, can I borrow the Chameleon? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, that game was just so much fun. And we laughed and laughed. And I think we could have played that until 3 a.m. The students were like that engaged. But again, it's a game where, I mean, if you haven't played the Chameleon, I would highly suggest it. It's a great party game, plays up to 8 people. Yes. And you have one person, so everyone gets these cards, and 7 of the 8 cards, or however many your play count is, have this grid on them. Ooh, Ray's pulling it out. This is the joy of video right here. Yeah. We're in video with his 700 copies of Sushi Go that are on top.
Yeah.
And, but in the there it is. So that's the Chameleon. And so in this, which is awesome, is that you have these cards, they have a grid, and you roll these 2 dice, and they kind of determine the positioning on the grid, which then correlates to another card, which is your code word. But one of those cards doesn't actually have the grid on it, and it just says you are the Chameleon. And the whole thing, again, like chameleons, is that's like the code word card that people are trying to figure it out. So the thing about the being the Chameleon is you want to blend in, right? You're trying to blend in so that no one guesses that you're the Chameleon. And so it's just a lot of fun going through this process. And then everyone says one-word clues, and you try not to be so specific to give away the clue because you don't want the Chameleon to guess it. And then after everyone's given their clue, it's this big debate. And you just try to determine who the Chameleon is, and everyone just kind of argues at the table, and then you put it all up for a vote. Do we think it's so-and-so, or, and once you've got that vote and everyone votes.
And if you're the Chameleon, you're like, well, no, so-and-so's, you're like, you're playing and hoping that somebody else used a word that they can just decimate and be like, no, why did you say that? That doesn't make sense, and turn everybody against them. That's part of the fun and the joy of it. That social deduction, man, it is. You get a lot of laughs out of that game.
Absolutely.
For sure. We had a great time with it.
And when you guess wrong, and everyone's convinced it's somebody, and then it's not them, I mean, it's hilarious because now it's like, man. Ooh, see, I burped. See, it was that ginger lime mule. The mule's kicking. The mule's kicking. See what you did there, Ray. That was good. No, it's just one of those things where it's like, once that happens, and somebody's made it, like it's epic because they're like, oh my gosh, I totally thought that was you, or other people are petitioning, like I think it's Joe. It's got to be Joe, and I'm like over here, and it's not me, and but everyone else is trying to pour on. I mean, the stuff just gets super fun. I don't always love social deduction games, right? We've talked about that because I don't like getting voted off the island, and I play them well, and so people always vote me off. This is one that you don't get voted off. I mean, you're basically just playing round by round to determine who
Yep.
the chameleon is. And I got a newer version of it while I was out east. And I actually played this because one of the students was borrowing mine, and we were doing a game night with my cousins and family and stuff. And this has been a really cool process with my family. Like when I came to Christ, it was very challenging for my family. Just because of their belief systems and where they're at. And so over the years, man, God has continued to restore and do some amazing things relationally. And so now every time I'm down there, we have a game night. I mean, it's just, I come bringing the games. And I was talking to my wife, Stephanie, and I was like, babe, I really think like we got to go to Target right now and go pick up a copy of Chameleon. My family with that game will be absolutely amazing. And
Yeah,
I,
right.
went and got it. And then I realized they kind of changed some things because now they're in a second printing. And so they don't have the scoring. The scoring's now optional. Now it's just literally how we always play it, where you're just debating and you play it round by round. It's awesome. And it did not disappoint with my family at all in any way, dude. We played for 2 straight hours and we could have gone more, but it was like a school night. So everyone's like, I got to go to bed, right? My kids are going to be up so early. But we played for 2 hours and they laughed and laughed and laughed. And at the end of it, my aunt was like, yeah, we're getting this. There's no question. Like this game.
Yep.
But for me, as a believer at the table and sitting down and being able to fellowship in that way with my family, like it's so good and refreshing for me. And it's been more consistent now, like as we've taken the last, these last 3 or so years of trips and just being able to engage. And it's not that my family didn't like love me and I didn't love them. Obviously there's love there, but it just is an awkwardness. It's like, oh, Joe and his family are the Christians and we're over here dropping F-bombs but yet they're, but now it's like, oh, wait, they call me Joey. They'd be like, oh, you're still Joey. You follow Jesus. And it's like, yeah, man, like God didn't suck my personality out and make me some automaton. Like, no, like, I don't know what that face was, but either way, now what it is that, no, God has given me life. He's given me new life. As a matter of fact, he's taken my personality and amplified it. Right. And so, just having a great time at the table with my family and just love being around them. And it's just a blast. But Chameleon did not disappoint. We're all a bunch of East Coasters, man. Literally. So you're getting like all the thick Boston accents are starting to come out and everybody's just like, no, it's definitely so-and-so. And everybody's just going back and forth. And my cousin's husband played the game so well. He was so good at it, man. Normally he doesn't play games. He sat down and played it and he did so well. It was so much fun. Had an absolute blast. The game's just it's just a huge win.
It is. So similarly, when I went, so my last weekend, we went up north and with our friends trip, and which actually last episode I was talking about my buddy that just got married, him and his wife, and then the other couple that we travel with. It was our friends' annual trip that we went up and we got a cabin. As soon as we get there, they're like, did you bring the games? Like this, like you're saying, it's so funny because now they're like, they know, they're expecting it. It makes something to look forward to. And so like I break out all these games. I got these games. So Chameleon was like the top game that we played. And it was the same thing. Like it's like, oh man, let's break out Chameleon. And there's just something about like going after each other and trying to pinpoint and be like, no, I think it's so and so. I think it, and you're like, well, why did you say that? And they're like, I didn't understand what that thing was. I don't even know. Like, well, you threw everything off because now that made no sense. And it, but then I kept my buddy's wife, the newlyweds, I kept swearing. I was like, I swear you're the Chameleon, and I'm sorry that I keep picking you. I felt so bad. But she was always just kind of like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, if you're not the Chameleon, tell me though. And so it was like, but like 3 out of 4 times she was the Chameleon, but I felt bad that I kept picking her, but same thing, man. We were cracking up, crying, laughing. So fun. That game is really good. A great party game. And a good one to play, especially that plays up to 8 people too, because a lot of games max out at 6. So if you have a little bit of a larger crowd, it's super fun.
And people are going to want to get in and out of it. We had people subbing in and out, and like at back out east and at the student leadership retreat, where it's like kids that are like, what's going on over there? And I mean, you even talked about it in the last episode too, about how contagious that can be. party and like people see you laughing and having a good time, they're like, I want in on that, and they come over and it's, again, that's a game that's very accessible, super easy to teach. It's like, here, we rolled this dice, the 6 is this, and then you go down here, boom, this is what you're looking at. Now you're trying to just make sure. And again, what I also love about it is it's not necessarily like, oh, I have to lie, because I can be the chameleon and I'm just picking up on all the stuff that's being said and I'm using that to my advantage. And again, it's like, I'm not having to be like, no, I mean, you might say, no, I'm not the chameleon. I usually say, hey, think what you want. Right? Like, what you think however you want to think. I don't ever say yes or no. Even like, I'll say, if I know I'm not the chameleon, it's easy to be like, look, I'm not the chameleon, but think what you want. Think what you want, however you want to do it. And I'm usually, that's how I play it. So I'm very like, no one knows. They're like, I don't know if you're just the whatever because of that. But I'm picking up on all the argument cues. I'm picking up on how everyone's talking. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what the word is now. And so now I'm able to argue a little bit better. And I don't have to be all like super lie-y, but I can just utilize the room. Where it gets difficult is if you're first and you're the chameleon and you don't know what the word is and you got to make something up. And so you're trying to look at my cousin Sarah she's super smart, bro. She's got this next level. And my aunt, like, she picked a word one time, and my aunt comes into my ear. She goes, what Sarah just did was, she goes, she's the chameleon, and I know because she just took all those words and in her brain in rapid fire made a composite word that fit the majority of those things like that fast. And I was like, nah, that's crazy. There's no way she did that. Sure enough, that's exactly what she did. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. Like, she was able to, like, just look at it, create this composite word that was vague enough, but made me think she knew the word. Right? Which was brilliant. Right. And I was like, she didn't use a word that was like so obvious or so far away. It was vague, which is part of the art of the game. You want to be vague. And yet I was like, nah, she knows it. Like, there's no question. And she had only had one other person that had gone. I mean, it was brilliant. It was really good. And that's what
there's an art to
it. There really is. And then there's that art to debate and just like having fun with it and just figuring out who's who and then being wrong half the time. And you're like, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah. But another game that we've been playing, we talked about it again because these things come up in the cooperative episode. But at that point, we actually hadn't really broke out and played, was Pandemic.
Yeah, and I was hoping you were gonna say that, just because we had such an epic play through of Pandemic, and that was actually, I know that we were on a retreat with the students and leadership, and the retreat was fun. The games that we were playing were fun, but it's funny because they were over there and they were playing what's the game?
Taco Caco Cheese Pizza.
Yeah. So they're playing it, and it's super loud. And we're in a relatively small space, kind of like in this lower level of this retreat center. And we're getting into this pandemic, and like we're super focused. And it's 4 leaders, me, you, Phil, and Chris. Yep. And so I'm like, hey, I saw another room back here. Like, we can move this table and get it. So we take the table and move it into this room, and you have the pandemic play set going on. So on YouTube, it's like this kind of eerie thriller music, and it's just us in this little room, and all the kids are over there, and we're playing. And that was what, like, the most fun that I had at the retreat.
So to be clear, there were adults in the other room. There was supervision. We didn't just leave all the students. I just want to be very clear. Right. So if our executive director is listening to this, we did not just leave all the students in a room and be like, hey, Lord of the Flies, have fun.
They were all leaders. The students were all leaders. They were good to go. They were fine.
No, we had supervision that was very present. That was very real. But yes, we were in a tiny little art room with this table and very eerie music and very dialed in. And how many times did we play it back to back?
We played 3 rounds back to back, right? 3 or 4. Yeah.
And how many times did we win?
0.
Zero.
Yes. We came really close, but we still lost.
But the world died. Yeah. Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, as they say. Yeah. Which is what it is. I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. No. But it was a ton of fun. And then, I mean, we played it there 3 times, and then literally, like, so we have our buddy Phil, we've talked about him on the podcast, where he'll try anything. He literally, like, all of a sudden, board games for him took shape. He literally was like, Joe, that is my new favorite game, right? He's like, that was so much fun. And I forgot how good that game was. I hadn't actually played Pandemic in a while, but I brought it to the retreat because the leadership retreat cooperative game made sense to me. And we even had some of the students playing Dead Men Tell No Tales, and that was a lot of fun. But I was like, oh, I'll just bring it. And then when we started playing it, I'm like, man, I forgot. This game is so good. And
Yep.
it's just so much fun. And, you know, I might give you some PTSD because of a few years ago, but it's a blast. It is an absolute blast. And we lost 3 times, and, you know,
But we had fun
but we
doing
had
it.
a
We
lot
had
of
fun
fun.
losing.
Yeah, had a lot of fun doing it. But then I ended up playing that again when I got home. I played it with my wife and my oldest, and we won. And so that was good. We
Yeah,
got there.
that's saying something.
Yep. And so we won, which was nice. And then I took it with me out east, and we played. No, we lost the first time we played. We won when we were out east. So I lost 4 games in a row of that game, and then we won when we were out east. And then my wife and I played a 2-player game of it with the what is it, on the Brink expansion, and we played with like the mutation, and we had a super fun time, but we lost. We had all four diseases cured, and then there's a 5th one, and you can cure it with either like just 5 cards that you can discard, or if you get all the purple cubes off the table, then you would, off the map, you would win. And we were going to be able to do it, and then the card we drew in the infect round was a mutation card, and it added 3 more cubes or 2 more cubes to the board, and we were like, we're literally 2 cards short, and so we just couldn't win.
I think that's part of the fun of the game is that you get so close, like you're so close to like it's literally that one turn that makes a difference, right? That one epidemic card that comes out, or that one roll, or that one extra dip. Like it's that one thing you're like, if we just had one more turn, like we could do it, but you get so close, so then it's addictive.
Dude, in our game at the student leadership retreat, bro, in our game, it'll live in infamy in my mind. For any time I play that game, I'll be like, yo, that's why I said, like, when we play the next time, whatever Ray says goes. Because Ray was like, what if we put this research center here in New York? And we were all like, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily make sense. So we don't put the research center, or the research center in New York. And guess what? Had we put it in New York, just as Ray suggested, we would have won the game.
We would have won the game.
But instead, because we chose not to listen to Ray, who actually works in a hospital, right? Ray's got like real world context here. And we don't listen to Ray. And we find out that, man, if we had just put a research center in New York, we'd have walked away with victory. It would have been amazing.
It's funny how that worked out, because that was purely a luck thing that it worked out like that. But it is funny. It is still funny that it did end like that. Like if we would have just did that, we would have won. We were that close.
We were so close.
The pandemic is very, very fun. That's a game that I'm going to be adding to the shelf here shortly.
Yeah, and again, I went because everyone was like, "Oh, you should play it with the on the Brink expansion," and I was like, honestly, I hadn't broke the game out in a long time, let alone think about an expansion. But after we had so much fun, I just immediately picked up the expansion and got it right before I went out east, and love it because, dude, one, they add enough for 5 players now. They've got a ton more roll cards, so you're adding more roll cards to the mix.
Oh, that's sweet.
Then you have 3 variations that you can play, where you have the mutation, where a virus can mutate, and it just adds these new cubes, and it makes it more difficult. And then you have this one where the epidemics change, and you pick, like, I can never pronounce words right, virulent or whatever. Again, you're the hospital guy. It makes the strain more contagious, and the epidemic cards is whatever that strain is. Then you add 2 instead of 1 each time. You know what I mean? So now you're adding more cubes, and it becomes harder to do. And then there's also a bio warfare variant where somebody at the table is like literally like biochemical warfare, and they are strategically laying out and sabotaging the board as people play. So I'm excited to try all of them. I've only tried the mutation one at this point, but really what's cool is it made the base game even better because you now have more roles. You have the 5th player. It just gives you more that you're doing. It gives you new event cards. Like, it was a really cool expansion. And like I said, having 3 new modes, I'm pretty excited to try all 3 of them out. And so, definitely.
So I wanted to take that. I was like, hey, can I buy? And you were like, I think I'm gonna take it out there. I'm gonna take it with me when I go out east. And I was like, that's cool. I'm gonna pick up my own copy. I didn't end up picking up a copy yet, so I'll get it. And we have 6 people there, and so it only
Yeah.
played 4, so it leaves some people out. So I was like, yeah, no rush on it. So I'll tell you what actually did. Chameleon was the top one that we played. Number 2, the number 2 game that we played while we were there.
Mantis. Yeah.
Mantis, dude.
That game's
They
so fun.
they loved it. They loved it. And it was like it's so simple. So the premise of this game is you have these cards that have different colors on them, and there's 6 different colors. And so like this would be your green card, but on the back it has orange, green, and purple. So I'm looking at the back of this card on the deck from the draw pile, and I say, okay, it's either going to be orange, green, or purple. I know that. Well, somebody in front of them has these cards face up like this, and they might have a stack of green cards. And I say, I want that stack. So I say, you know what? I'm going to steal from you, Joe, because I want to take your greens. But then it's not green, it's purple. And so I give you the purple card. And there's ways to score. Very simple game.
Yeah.
Like I taught it to the rest of the crew, like, in a matter of minutes. I'm like, basically, come on, we're just going to start playing. Picked it up like that. Dude, we almost had as much fun, as many laughs playing Mantis as we did Chameleon. Like it, we would have rows of like blues, and people would stop caring about scoring, and they would just be like, I want your blues. So then they're stealing it. So we're like, one person would steal their blues. We're like, I just got those. And then the next person would steal the blues. And then, dude, it was fun, chaos, and laughter. It's a great game, easy game, super simple game. Any age level could play and enjoy. So it was between these 2 all weekend.
Nice. Yeah, I love Mantis. I mean, I honestly, if you're looking for a great social, just fun, simple, quick game, that's it, hands down. And I every time I've played that game with a group of people, it has always just been a great experience. And like I said, I mean, we've talked about this for a number of times. I play board games for the social experience, right? So I like having a variety of different games and knowing my audience and knowing who I'm playing with. If I'm playing with first-time gamers, I want them to have the dopest experience. So we're going to play some of these games that they're going to be like, yo, what's next? Like you said, your friends are like, you brought the games?
Yep.
Yes, and then knowing the games you brought, you have a variety of like different types of things, but that social interaction, and again, Mantis can get out of hand crazy. Like you said, oh my gosh, I just got all these blues, bro. Don't steal it. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. You're looking at me. You're gonna take my blues.
Yeah.
And then you flip it, and they're like, oh, it's red. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just I saw that game for the first time at Camp Living Waters when I was speaking at a winter retreat or a summer camp, one of the two. And Bo's wife had said like, hey, have you heard of this game? And I was like, no. She's like, oh, we play it with the kids all the time. And then she brought it out, and I was like, whoa, what is this? This is like the simplest thing ever, but man, it's so much fun. And my little boys, like, they love it. Like they'll play Mantis anytime. Like my 4-year, well, now he's 5, but even when he was 4, he Mantis all day, and he understood it, could get it, and could play. And so I love that accessibility. And so many good memories. But yeah, that's great, dude.
Yeah, it was man, we had a blast playing it. It was great hit there all week. And it was like I was actually trying to get them to play other games. I was like, hey, I got a couple other games you guys want to check out, and they were like, no, let's just play these 2. Like they didn't care for anything else. It was but it was fun. We had a great time.
But what's going to happen is they're going to get those, they're going to buy them, they're going to start playing them, and then the next time you go, they're going to like, what else you got? You're going to play something different, and now they're going to be, before you know it, man, they're going to be hobbyists, and they're like, oh, our collection just went from none to 150, and you're like, oh, it's just the beginning. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This is the start.
This is the start. Yeah. No, that's so good, man, and I love it. And I always bring so many more games than we need. I mean, we had so many games at the retreat, but the ones that are going to get played. Like I knew Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza was going to be played all the time, and it was played all the time. It was just that's how it was, and it was a lot of fun for them. They love it. But the fact that we got to play Dead Men Tell No Tales and Pandemic a number of times, and the Chameleon, and get other games, like, to me, that's just a win. It's one step at a time into the hobby, and I love that. So
yeah, Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was fun. And so now we're actually going to kind of transition. We're going to transition into our game break. I didn't have really a smooth transition there other than saying we're going to transition now into a more game conversation, more game. But the actual game that you might be here listening, you're like, dang, I had to put up with 25 minutes of whatever that was to get to this. Sorry. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you didn't, this podcast is brought to you by Polar. Take it up with them. They'll send a mule your way, all right? But I love this stuff, man. It's so good. But otherwise, we have this game break, and we really want to talk about Rise of Babel. This is through Bedouin Games, and I had the opportunity to get a review copy a while back and did a small review on it, and we wanted to talk about it in the podcast. But before we do, we want to actually kick it out to our correspondents. We want to kick this out to a little bit of an overview and sort of a how to play, and so we're going to kick it to our correspondents, Ray and Joe. So Ray and Joe, why don't you go ahead and take it away for us and give us that overview.
Hey, thanks, Joe and Ray. We appreciate you guys. We're going to give you a brief overview of the game Rise of Babel that we've been talking about here on the podcast, but we wanted you to be able to at least see the game a little bit here and us talk through it. So in its core, it is a deck builder.
Yes.
Which I definitely wouldn't have necessarily thought initially. So it's a deck builder, it's got some tile placement, and it's like a pickup and delivery game.
Yeah, a little resource management in there.
There is actually, because the cards, they have double things. Like, you probably can't really see it. We're going to give you as much as we can here. There's some gold down on the bottom. So you're using cards to buy other cards and move throughout the board. And ultimately, you all have, like, for your color, you're going to have these little chips with resources on them and all sorts of fun stuff there. And you're trying to place those onto this little temple board here as you're building it up with the different resources. And then there's scoring mechanisms that occur where if you have the blue resource and it goes straight up and down, you're going to score points for how many of those blocks you have in a row. If you've got the stone, the gray resource, it's diagonal. You've got this little tar looking stuff, and that's orthogonal. And then you have the wood, which is going to be straight across. And you're going to score points based on your colors connecting with the resource types on that. And so it's a tile placement game in that way, and basically you got to be the first to be able to get your resources up to the temple. So you're either moving your elephant, right? Moving your elephant, or there's other cards that let you take things right out of your stable and put it on there, or your warehouse. And so there's different storage units. And Ray, you and I were talking a little bit about the play mat.
Yes.
Why don't you throw some insight on that?
Yeah. So even with this looking overwhelmingly complex at first glance, this game is super simple. So the iconography here is very easy to read. Once you get them, it just plays very simply. As well as what's on here on your player mat, as you move through, you get added bonuses as you continue to go from left to right here, which allows you to put resources in your camp, put from your camp onto your elephant, and then take the elephant to the temple. Now, what's cool about the elephant is that there are these carts that you get to add to the back of them. So as a regular elephant here, as you can see, they have these sweet carts that go on there, which allow you to carry more resources to the temple. So they have a lot of neat little things in the game like that I really enjoy. I think that plays really well. Also, with you saying about the scoring, it might have sounded like a lot, but thankfully, they have a scoring track right here on the side.
Right here.
So you don't have to worry about it. That's right. You don't have to remember that, which I love. I think that it plays really well, really simple, and it's easy to read, even though at first glance it does look a little bit intimidating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then just like any other deck builder, you're going to go through and you're going to purchase cards, add them to your deck. You know, you shuffle, you draw 5, similar to like Dominion or other deck builders. But there is an incredible amount of strategy in the cards.
Yes.
And how you play them and the sequence by which you play them it's very, very strategic and important. And some cards just have a primary action. Some have a primary, secondary, and tertiary. And you're picking one of those. What's nice, if you have a card with 3 different, that card has what, 2? Yeah, so that card has 2, so you have an option. So you might not want to do the top one, which in that case would be really good. Take a tile from your stable and bring it up to the temple. That's a really great way to fast track. But you might not want to do that, and you might not have anything that makes any sense for you, but you have something on your elephant. So you could choose to use the secondary action instead and actually go through and just move your elephant up in that particular case. But some of the cards, and I don't have one in my hand, actually have 3 options that allow, and you're just picking one of those 3, which gives you a lot of versatility in the cards you're playing. Also, some cards give you endgame bonuses, so they'll give you an endgame bonus point or several bonus points, and that's indicated up there in the top right. And then also you have ones that give you like an automatic victory point when you purchase it. So I had one earlier in the game, and that'll be indicated there with a little blue on the left hand side. And so you're scoring points, that way. And at the end of the game, there are opportunities for those end game bonus points based on the cards that you're purchasing. And I will say we've played this game a number of times. We've tried a couple of different strategies. One, I went heavy on cards back when we first started playing. Yep. And actually, I think we tied.
We tied, and I went heavy actually on loading up my elephant and taking it to the temple. So there are different ways to victory, and it's kind of about even. Yeah.
And again, like for me, I just had card sequences that allowed me to get things right to the temple. I was able to buy the cards that would just allow me to push it and just get it there. Where Ray was loaded up on elephants and was able to just track resources very, very quickly up there. And again, there is a take that element. It's pretty intense in that, like, I'm vying for a particular space with a resource because I want to get points. But Ray might see that and he'll go and he'll place his tile there to disrupt it. And that can be really challenging. What I do like is they have these little rainbow resource ones. These are all the color. That was fun. These are all the colors that are like represented by the player colors in the game. And when these are placed on there, not only can you score them, but also other players can score them as well. But so there's a nice strategy in that. But there is some take that in that I'm placing my my tile there just to stop you, even though it's not going to yield me any points. I can't give you 3 or 6 or 12 or whatever points. And so I'm going to place that there. And not only is there the main tile, there's tower, there's also some secondary ones on the side. And so, again, it plays over 3 rounds. And then at the end of the 3rd round, once all the spaces are filled, you do final scoring. Then you would tally up all the card points that you have, and that would be how you determine the victor. Overall, we'll talk about it more in the remainder of the podcast, but overall, the gameplay, as Ray stated, is relatively intuitive and pretty simple, but it is a satisfying loop. I've had fun every single time I've played the game. So
yeah, very enjoyable. Yeah, I also like the 3D aspect of the tower as you build it. It really looks like you're building a tower up. So it's just a really cool game. Great artwork, very fun, very simple.
We didn't even talk about these confusion tiles.
Yeah.
These do leave a little bit to desire, but they can give you negative points. So if you're placing on this and you're placing a confusion tile, every tile that touches that is going to score negative points. And so there is definitely a strategy in the confusion tiles, but they do leave a little bit to be desired. And I think the expansion is going to deal a little bit more in that. But overall, that's kind of an overview of how to play Rise of Babel. And hey, Joe and Ray,
back to you guys.
All right.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Ray. Really appreciate what you guys just did there for us, man. It's so good to have you out in the field.
Those are 2 good-looking guys, man.
They are. They really are.
Handsome.
Yeah. Every time I see them, I'm like, wow, man, those are some really good-looking dudes. Yeah, man. Wow.
Anyway.
Welcome back. So no, that's that.
Yeah, right.
That's that. But no, so Rise of Babel, or Babel, or however you want to pronounce it. Ray says niche, I say niche. It's whatever. You can pronounce it out. Babel. I don't care. It's Baby Bell cheese. However you want to. No, it's not another sponsor. Whatever you want to do in that, call it however you do. But as you can kind of see in that overview, it's really a deck builder. It's got some resource management, tile placement, pick up and deliver. There's a lot of different mechanics at play in the game. And Ray and I have played it together a few times, or 2 or 3 times together. And a little bit of a spoiler, like, I actually really enjoy the game. I thought the game was very fun. It's very satisfying. It does have some take that element stuff, going on, because I'm going to take your tile placement, and that kind of thing. But overall, the experience for me is a good one.
I agree. I agree. When the first time that we broke it out and got into it, it took us a little while to kind of grasp some of the rules and figure
Yeah.
out how, some of the tile placement and the scoring worked, and just even moving. But it happens really quickly once you start building your
Yeah.
deck and you kind of figure out what path you want to take to get your points. I think the first game that we played, you were kind of more building your deck. I was trying to move my elephant more. You were getting more cards that allowed you to place resources directly from your camp
Yeah.
or from your board onto the tower. I was moving my elephant. We both arrived pretty much at the same point total, but both had fun doing it.
Yeah.
I think that once you grasp that, like it's easy, it's accessible. There's some cool elements like we talked about with adding on the different parts of the elephant so
Yeah.
you can carry more. That is like,
Super
you
cool.
know, yeah, really cool. I like the games that like in game you're actually building stuff, you know what I mean? Even to the tower itself, like it's 3D, and as you're stacking it up, it starts looking like you're really building a tower or
Yeah.
pyramid. Those are just really cool elements,
Yeah.
and I had a lot of fun when we played as well. Each time we played, I think it's a really good game.
Yeah, I actually love the deck building element of this. It's actually a really satisfying build because there's strategy to it. Because the cards, like we talked about there in a little bit in the overview, the cards give you multiple options, and so not all of them, but a lot of them. So it's like, what am I going to choose right now? And do I want the gold, or do I want the, to move my elephant, or do I want to move this resource? And so I have some choices, and then I'm looking at the market and what's out there, and there's ways to refresh the market. Like I can spend gold to refresh the market. I'm working on, do I want to build my player mat? Am I gonna hit this player mat or and do the upgrades there? What does this look like? Oh, what do I have out on my player mat? Because if I take this resource, I'm going to move this side. If I take this one, I'm moving this one. And I think that there's so many cool decisions that can be made
Yep.
within the gameplay. Like I really enjoy it. And the more I play it, the more I like it. And I feel like I can teach the game now relatively quickly. Because I've played it a number of times, that I could sit you down and teach the game within 5 to 7 minutes and be like, boom, we're off. And then, along the way, you might ask some questions, but I feel like you'll have a pretty good understanding of how it works. And it's, like I said, having played it a number of times now, I can just sit that thing down, set it up real quickly, and just get on the go. And I like that out of a game.
Yep. Yep.
Games that you can get to the table quickly, I think that stuff matters.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a great talking piece, right? Like we're always talking about bringing the game to the table and fellowshipping, and especially from a Christian context, and how you can fellowship with other people. And this topic itself, right?
Yep.
It's something that lends to conversation.
Yep.
That like some might ask, like, why are we playing a game where we're building the tower, right?
Yep.
And that's maybe want to hang out a little bit here to talk about that, because it is like, it's kind of like, okay, why are we? But it's fun, and I'll just jump out to say, like, in playing the game, I never felt like I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was like contributing to something that went against my Christian values or belief, or somehow it didn't seem like something that I would say I'm not playing this again because it goes against my values, or it's somehow corrupting me, right? It seemed very innocent and made sense in my mind, like how you could get a game out of that. And so
yeah, and again, I think like you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's a bit more of that conversational piece, like, and I think there's some intention there. And I've talked a little bit with one of the designers, and it's like, wanting to hear more from his perspective. And so we have reached out to them, and they'll likely join us in another episode down the line, so we can hear even more from their perspective, which I'm excited about. I love that. But when you start walking through the process and you're looking at it again, I feel the same way. It's not necessarily I don't feel like I'm doing anything horribly wrong while I'm playing. However, I can also understand why someone would hear this and look at it and be like, yeah, why am I building the Tower of Babel? Because this is, I even said it differently than I did last time. Babel, whatever. Why am I building this? Because this was clearly an abomination. Like the Lord dealt with them in this. There was a judgment, the language, but again, the game doesn't feel that way to me. What it feels like is like, yeah, you're building it, but there's disruption, there's confusion that's coming out. That's, there's there, and knowing that they're working on or have expansion expansions that are going to make it even more evident that this is not a good thing. It's a game. But there's this more confusion that gets into it, and the fall of man, I think, is the, let me see here. Rise of Babel, Fall of Man is the expansion, and the idea is that the tension is rising, the confusion is increasing. You're having a lot of those kind of things going on. So it's really just a recapitulation of the account, much more than it is necessarily trying to assert itself as the arbiter of biblical truth. It's literally just like, this is it's an account, right? And there's even different views of how people see this account. And for me, like you said, I didn't feel like I was going against God by playing the game. It didn't make me feel like I was offering sacrifices to some pagan god or doing those kind of things. It really just felt like you were playing out essentially a Bible account, like something that actually literally happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's a time period, right? Like it's a story from the Bible that happened that we know the ending, we know what God's viewpoint on it was, but in this moment that we're playing the game, it's not that we are contributing to something bad,
Right.
And it's even cool to hear you say that about the expansion and how like it will be interesting to hear their take on it, because maybe their vision is to say like, okay, this is where it starts, and then that was the whole thing, to make the other expansions so that it just sees how it crumbles and how it was in opposition to God. But I guess it can't be labored enough to say like, even just playing the game was just fun, straight up fun, nothing that was bad in my spirit about it, right? Like even going back to, as you were saying before, about themes, where we talked, last season about a game about themes and why themes are important and they matter, especially as a Christian at the table. And if we look at this theme of what it is, I think that it's an awesome game that lends conversation to maybe opening up to, like you said, there's opposing viewpoints, and even to your non-Christian friends to say like, well, why would some people even see this as bad, and you can give the account of what happened and why and how this was in opposition to God and doing things without God and showing the need for him. And but in the game itself, I think you're just going to have a good time, and you don't really have to wrestle with something. Like you said, there's no incantations, there's no idol sacrifices, there's no anything that's going to make you feel like you're partnering with something evil.
And I love what you just said, though, man, like how this could even be like, there are some that maybe are against this theme, and a non-believer might be like, walk me through that, like but here's like the bigger thing to me is it doesn't feel like it glorifies the Tower of Babel, right? It doesn't feel like it's putting this on display as a good thing. It doesn't feel that way, right? Like the game's not glorifying the account, and it's not making you feel like that you're doing the thing. I get it. Yes, you are doing a pick up and deliver. You are delivering tiles and materials to lend to the tower, right? But this isn't about glorifying what was going on then. As a matter of fact, it's just again, I think it's just a recapitulation of the account and in a game form, much more than it is trying to glorify the event or say that it's okay or write it off or make Christians feel like they're doing something against God. I think you're just playing the account of the game, and again, it's
great point.
Again, I think people are gonna have differing thoughts here, and that's completely fine, right? Like I don't want people to go against their convictions. If you're like, no, I can't play that because I'm convicted to not play it because of its theme, and as a result, I want to stay as far away from that as I can. Do that. Please don't hear this and be like, oh, well, if they say it's no, you really do need to pray about that. We've talked about that again. Yeah, Ray mentioned it season 1, and we talked about navigating theme as a Christian. Like you've got to go to the Lord in that. If you have I don't think I should play that vibe, check it, because when they first dropped this and they started talking about it, I had that feeling where I was like, ooh, I don't know about that one. I don't know. I don't know that I love that. I'm not sure I love that theme so much. And I just explored. I asked some questions, right? And then I was like, you know what? Why don't I at least just try it? I'm not feeling so convicted where I couldn't at least try the game. And I broke it out. I tried it. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is what I thought it was initially.
Yep.
right? I didn't have
Right.
that same thing. And again, I'm pretty methodical. I've had a long walk in this process, and my views have changed over the years concerning a lot of things, but I have my lines. And, I don't want, first and foremost, man, I don't want to play something that's going to make me feel like I'm not able to glorify God, or that it's making me feel like I'm sinning against him. That's not where I want to be. I don't catch that in this.
Yep.
But I can understand how someone might. Right, and I want to respect that just the same. I would never force that on somebody. I would want you to take it. But I mean, this part might be controversial to the designers. I honestly think you could take any theme and paste it onto this game. I realize I'm wearing a Pizza Planet shirt, but you could honestly make this game about delivering pizzas, right?
Right.
Or like building your own pizza shop. I mean, you definitely could.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just, again, the mechanics, the way things play. You really could put any kind of theme on it. I think their bend is hey, we want to draw attention to things scripturally and be able to engage some conversation. And as a Christian, I can sit this down and be like, yeah, we're going to play the Rise of Babel, and I'm going to be playing with non-believers, and I could just say, hey, like, honestly, like, this is a pivotal moment in the book of Genesis where these are people who are in rebellion against God, and in their rebellion, God sent confusion. And now what you see as a result today of that confusion is that you can look back historically. Watch this, I'm about to get all historical. When you look back in history, and what you should expect to find is the same account in several different languages if this story is accurate. And what you do is you find out that there's similar accounts where you have Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, things you probably didn't think you'd hear on this podcast, and looking at Ra and the sun god and Apollo and all these things, and how all of these things point to the same accounts, and the confusion and the different things that come out of this, and there's all sorts of historical context about that. But I can now have that conversation with a non-believer and say, like, yeah, like, this is what we should expect to find if this is in fact true. And it all started because we sat down and played a game, right? And I think that's real. I think you can really have that conversation.
Absolutely. And I want to add too, in the story within Genesis itself, they did not complete the tower.
Correct.
Neither will you complete the tower in the
Right.
game.
Nah, not at
You're
all.
just building it. You're
Yeah.
just, you know what I mean? It's not like you completed something that was in opposition to God. It didn't happen in the
Right.
Bible. It doesn't happen in the game. You're just in the process. And at some point, it's going to end in the game, after a certain amount of rounds, and you add up your points. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, look at what I built, and this thing is in
Correct.
opposition to God. It's like we were just in the process of building something, and oh, yeah, that's right. God didn't want us to finish this. There's a reason for that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's not
absolutely.
even like you did the thing, you
Right,
know?
right. Yeah, and right, exactly. Yeah, we're not finishing this. You play 3 rounds in the game, and it ends. And again, there's confusion and all sorts of things that happen kind of throughout, and the confusion affects your point totals and that. And so, again, would want people to lean in on their own convictions there. They want to go before the Lord. We are not going to sit here and ever advocate against that. Having played it, like I said, several times, as from a game perspective, I really enjoy the game. But I could literally, honestly, in my own mind, I could be like, all right, I'm just using this elephant to deliver pizzas, or I'm building a shop. I mean, you could do whatever there. But the game itself, if we're just looking at it pure gameplay, and let's axe the theme for a second, it's really well done. Everything about it lands for me as far as gameplay is concerned. And again, want to respect the controversy around the topic of the game. Just the same, I definitely want to do that and pay that respect. And we want to hear from the designers. So we're hoping to have Elijah and Ivan join us, and be able to explain their process and what they were thinking, and really let them kind of explain that. And again, you might hear that and you might not be satisfied. That's fine, right? Like that. This isn't the podcast episode here isn't a hey, let's convince everyone to play Rise of Babel. The podcast is hey, we've played it. Here are our honest thoughts concerning the gameplay, and acknowledging the controversy around it, and saying, hey, there are some valid points that are being made concerning it. However, when we play it, we're not feeling that way as we dive into the game. And that's where we're at. At least me,
Yeah, I agree. I'm 100% right there with you as well. Like, it's a great game, worth playing. I think that the theme is able to be worked around. Is just in line with what you said, as long as it's not convicting in a personal standard, and God isn't leading you otherwise. But we're checking out, man, and it's fun. It's fun,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So these game break episodes, we are literally going to try to keep to 45 minutes. We're going to try not to head into hour territory where we always head into that hour. So we're actually at 43 minutes right now. But if you have questions, if you're like, hey, maybe you disagree and you want to talk more about it, like Ray and I are very approachable. We're very open to this conversation. We love talking about this stuff. And I, have had those times where I've, felt one way and then talked to somebody and really the Lord moves and my whole view could change, right? Like I said, my view was, I'm not so sure about that one to start. Right. But I'm exploratory. That's what I do. I explore things. I study. I look in. I ask questions. And that's just who I am. That's how God wired me. And so, but if you have questions, like email us at christianboardgamers@gmail.com. You can go through christianboardgamers.com and hit our contact there. You can, on YouTube, leave a comment. We'd love to talk to people. Like,
Yes,
we don't want to
please.
just sit here behind a mic and just babble. You see what I accidentally did there? Look at that. We don't want to do that. We actually want to engage with this community. We love what God's doing in the space and want to talk to more people. And it is completely okay to disagree with something that you've heard today or anytime.
Yes.
And just know that you'll be met with love, compassion, and conversation. So let's just all be respectful in the space and have that. And again, we can disagree in this and be okay. So, yeah.
Yep.
Any other thoughts that you got in
Yep.
this closing 6 seconds?
No, that's great, man. Yeah, I just want to continue the fellowship.
Yeah.
The fellowship on the podcast, the people listening to the podcast, and we can only get better if people let us know how we can get better and where we need to improve at.
Yeah.
Love
it. Sweet. Well, as always, we want to leave you with Matthew 5:16. Let your light shine before others in such a way that they see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Let's make it a great week and represent Christ well. So until the next time, God bless. Peace.
Peace.